So here's another class that is going to demonstrate something that was requested by one of the students. I was asked to recreate these two shapes or logos or whatever you want to call them in Photoshop. Now the first thing I want to mention is that I think that these shapes were probably created in Illustrator, but you can create them in Photoshop too. It's not a big deal. What I would do first of all is just kind of analyze this and look at what it is. So for each side of this square, you've got a color that's coming off, and it looks like it's coming off straight, and then there's a little curve here, okay? And then everything is in a circle, and that's easy enough to create by just knocking it out into a circle, and I'll show you how to do that with a clipping mask, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to do this live. I haven't really done this before, but I'm just going to see if I can create it here for you. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to create because I need a straight line here to match this side, I'm going to create just a square. Here we go. Square. Oh, what am I doing? What's going on? Oh, there we are. Sorry, let me get rid of that. So I'm going to create this square, and I'm going to click on the layer here just to get the color. So I'm going to double click on that, and then automatically a dropper thing comes here whenever I click on this twice, and I'm just going to select this color, and I'm going to click OK. And what I'm going to do is click on the selection tool here. And actually, no, I'm going to add a point so I can make this curve off. So then I'm going to select this guy right here and just I'm going to make it turn off just a little bit like that. And that's just this area here. I'm going to select this guy and just drag it down a little bit. And as I drag it, I'm holding on to the Shift key. So if you hold on to the Shift key, it will allow you to, let me see, if I want to just move it straight up, click on this, and if I hold Shift, it'll let me move it straight up. And you can see it wandered a little bit over, but for the most part, you can move things straight up and down by holding the Shift key. Okay, there we go. Now, eventually, this is going to be where our square is, but I'm going to take this guy and okay, the next thing would be to just copy this and then hit Control T and do I guess a 45-degree angle and put it like that. Now I'm going to change the color of this to this red here, and it needs to go under it. So it would be kind of like this. That's okay. Now I'm going to copy both of these so I can just do this once and have these two guys. So I'm going to hit T and do 45 degrees. Wait, not 45 degrees, 90 degrees, so I can get this all the way around. 90 degrees, and move these guys over here. Is that right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's not right. The degree change is going to have to be different. Okay, let me get rid of these. I tell you what, why don't I just try to make the square first? So I'm going to do the square. Here is one side. I'm going to hit T, and then pressing Control and Shift, I'm going to move this side up like this. I'm going to hit Alt and drag this over. Then I'm going to hit Control T and do flip horizontal. So now we have this, and that is not perfect, but okay, I'll select both of these and hit T. Okay, and I can change those colors later to white. This is just so I can see it. Now, if I want to, I can, with both of these layers selected, I can drag it down to the new layer, and I can actually combine these two layers together. If I have both of these together, I can click merge shapes. So now this is one layer down here. I don't want to merge these two layers. This is going to be the top part up here. I don't want to merge these two because they have different shading. Okay, so I'm going to hit T, and then I'm going to hit Shift and just move this around like this. So now this is the top, like that. All right, and make this, I'm just going to make it gray for now so you can see it on the white background. And this needs to be underneath here, so it's, there we go. Okay, so going back to what I had before so we can do this the right way. And I'm just showing you what I would do. I mean, I don't, this isn't like pre-planned or anything. I just want to give you an idea of just eyeballing it, how it would all come together. Okay, so we've got our one shape that's going to be here. And let's change that to the orange. I don't need web colors, just regular colors. Okay. And I want to add, see, because I want this to curve over like this, I'm going to, you see we have all our points here. Since this is a rectangle, it's just got 4 points. So we're going to add an additional point here. And we're just going to drag this guy over so it curves off like we did before. And okay, now let's copy that. I'm going to take the layer below it and I'm going to make it match with this line. Okay. Let me get rid of this guy. I'm going to make this match here. There has got to be a better way to do this, but I don't know. Sometimes you just have to improv. There we go. So we got these two now. I'm going to change the color of the back one to red. Okay. So now we can select both of these. I'm going to drag both of the layers down and copy them. And then I'm going to take the two that are on the bottom here, and I'm going to turn them around. Here we go. And just match them to the square. There we are. I'm sure I can do that a little better. There we go. And now I'm going to take two more. And that should, you know, be the final two. Here we are. Okay. All right. That's pretty close, I think. It's not perfect. But okay, now we have to worry about these guys over here and making sure they overlap. Okay, this overlaps this overlaps this one. This guy needs to overlap this guy. So where is that? This guy's, no, this guy is here. So he needs to overlap this guy. Let's drag that down. And then this guy needs to overlap. Okay, this is going to be our tricky one because he's going to have to overlap. He's going to have to be under this one and then over this one. So we're going to actually duplicate this layer and create a little effect here. So this is going to be on top. So let's, one of the things that I wanted to show you guys was when you're dealing with shapes, you have the ability to make what you're selecting disappear from the object. And we kind of already covered this. So if I'm going to take this, this layer right here, and I want to make this part disappear because I want it to go underneath this layer. And we already have another copy of that layer here. Okay. So I'm going to hit Alt while I draw a circle here. And I'm going to hit the space bar just to move it over. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, this guy is visible on top of this layer, and he's also visible underneath this layer. Okay? If we took this layer off, you'd see that part of it just disappears. Now let's do the colors. Let's get the colors right. This guy should be this yellow. We're going to change that on the top too. This guy should be this green. This guy should be blue. This guy should be purple. And at the very top again, we're going to make this guy yellow again. So that all matches. Okay, now the center part, we need to change the color on that. So we're going to make this white. This layer is going to be white. This layer is going to be white too. And this layer is going to be white. Okay, so we need to add shading to each of these. And what's the best way to add a gradient onto a layer is to go down to the FX here, layer effects, and we're going to put a gradient overlay. So let's put gradient overlay on this layer. So gradient overlay. Okay, and you can see that now there's a gradient on here. But it's not quite like this, so we can start changing where the gradient is going to be. Where's the angle? So the angle, this has actually got the black to light. Okay, the top is light going down to black on the bottom. So let's move the angle around. That's a little better. That's more like this. Let's take down the visibility, the opacity, make it more transparent. That looks pretty close. We'll click OK. So now this is going to have a little FX over here, and it's going to have gradient overlay. So if we want to just copy this style to this guy, we can just hit Alt and drag it down to this layer, and there we go. Now you can see that these guys are there. We're going to want to change it a little bit because you can't see the separation here. So let's double click on gradient overlay again. And I'm just going to move it a little bit so you can see this. You see when we move it, you can see this corner just a little better. Okay. So that's pretty good. And we'll change this one a little bit too. Click on it twice. And we'll just change the angle just a little bit. There you go. That gives us a little bit more of a separation between these two layers. Okay, we'll hit OK. And we need to put a little bit of a gradient on this top guy here. So I'm gonna do this a different way. Instead of hitting Alt and dragging it down, I'm gonna right click on this layer and say copy layer style, and then I'm gonna click on here and I'm gonna click paste layer style. And now this has the gradient pasted on there. So gradient overlay, because it's trying to put the gradient onto this entire top, which goes all the way down. It goes all the way down here. You have to make the gradient overlay a little smaller. So I'm going to take the actual gradient. Let me show you this real quick. Okay, you can change the colors of the gradient, where the gradients change, all the different aspects of your gradient right here. So you just click on that and look at this, for example. If I click on this guy, that's going to be your gradient. Let's put it at 100%. Okay, click on this guy. You can see that all these different, I mean, I never use these, but you can do all kinds of stuff with your gradient. Okay, so we're just going to use black to white. Okay, we're going to bring down the opacity. We're going to change, we're going to actually make it more white here so it doesn't go down as far. Oops, there we go. Change that again. It's pretty good. We can smooth that out a little bit too, so we can do scale. Okay, like that. Let's change our angle. It's pretty good. Okay. And you can see, I mean, I'm looking at this right now. There's just a little bit of a hole here. I'm going to hit Control plus, and let's move that over just a little bit. There we go. Not perfect, but good enough for what we're doing right now. Okay, now this all needs to be in a circle, right? So how do we make it so that all of this is contained in one circle? Well, there's two ways to do it. I can take all of these layers. Let me just click them all. I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click this. Okay. If you want to click one layer, it's Control click. And if you want to click from here to the top, you just hit Shift and it'll select everything in between that. Now I'm going to hit Control G and everything is in that group. Okay. Now one way to do this that doesn't really work that well, I mean, I guess it works okay, is you can just create a layer mask over this entire group. And I'm going to make sure this is pixels. And I'm just going to click in the center of this square and drag out. If I don't touch anything, it's going to drag like this. But if I hit Alt and Shift will make it a perfect circle, and Alt will make it go from the very center. So I'm going to drag it all the way out from here. And okay, stop. And we have the opposite of what we want. So I'm just going to click on this and hit Control I. And there we go. That is kind of the same thing, okay? You might even argue that it's pretty much, I mean, it's pretty close. Okay, but I wouldn't do it this way. What I would do, let's just get rid of this alpha channel. I'll drag it to the trash can. What I would do is I would create a circle at the very bottom here and create a clipping mask. So let's do another layer, make sure that's inside of that group. When I created that layer, it was outside of that folder. You can see the folder up here, and I just dragged it and brought it into that folder without dragging it all the way to the top. Okay, so what I would do is do the same thing, except I would go up to Shape and click Shape, because this, you know, as we've learned, you want to keep things vectors. If you're dealing with most shapes, you want to make them vectors. So I'm going to create a circle here at the very bottom, and I'm going to hit Alt. Oops, that's not right. Okay, Alt and Shift again, and I'm going to create just a shape here at the very bottom. Okay, there we go. Now that doesn't do anything yet until we start making all these clipping masks, which means that they're all going to be inside of this circle. So let's hit Alt and go between each layer. I'm just clicking Alt and then clicking on the line between each layer. And you can see all of these little arrows are appearing when I do that. And if you look at the shape, everything is now becoming part of this circle. Everything is being masked out by the circle. Okay, so that's actually pretty good. Now, what is the benefit of doing it like this? Well, for one thing, you have a vector shape here, which we all know is better than having a raster shape. But also, we can start adding layer effects to this very bottom layer, and it'll start affecting all the layers on top of it. So if I do, let's say, for example, inner glow, it looks like this has a little bit, this guy looks like it has a little bit of an inner glow or inner shadow or something. So let's do inner glow. And inner glow, the default is going to give us a glow, obviously. It's going to give us a bright interior. But what I do is I just click on the color that I want it to be to black and change the blending mode to multiply. And now we have a dark interior glow. So that looks kind of like what we want here. Okay, I'm just taking down the opacity, and I'm going to go to size, and that's going to make the size of the interior glow smaller. And then there's choke, and choke basically means the smoothness between light and dark, and how it just kind of chokes it in, like you can see. Okay, so there we go, kind of like that. And then you can add all these different effects to it too. You can do, let's say you want to do a drop shadow, distance, blur. The the blur for it calls it the spread. So there you go. Just do a big spread here. All right, what am I doing? No, size. Okay, there we go. Let's make this smaller. Just play with these guys. And you can do bevel emboss, which I hate bevel emboss. It's really one of those things that, I mean, some people use it for effects, but I don't really use it that much. But you can add some quick, like make it look kind of like a button or whatever. So there you go. Anyway, so that's how you play with, that's how you create something like that. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but if I was doing it in the couple of minutes that I looked at it, that's the quick way that I would do it.